This is Andy Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by David Price over Zoom. David, always a pleasure. I appreciate you doing this interview with me over weekend. So, yeah, how are you?
Good, Andy. Yeah, thanks for having me back on.
No, it's always a pleasure and always good to chat. And just going to get straight into it, David, because I know I haven't got much of your time. Some disappointing news this week. We saw the Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk fight fall through for the undisputed heavyweight title. I just wanted to get your thoughts, your reaction to how everything unfolded over the last few days.
Yeah, it seems like there's been like a lot of pettiness going on in the negotiations, but at that level of negotiations, it's big business, isn't it? You know, it's the first undisputed fight for God knows how long. It was always going to be difficult to get it over the line because in boxing there's always egos and there's two champions. To be fair to Usyk, though, he surrendered everything more or less, you know, and he carries 3 of the 4 belts, or has he got 4? Has he got 4 belts? He's got the IBO as well, maybe.
He's got, yeah, well, including the IBO, yeah.
Yeah, has he? Yeah. So yeah, you know, they both got their own things to bring to the table, but obviously Tyson Fury sees himself, and rightly so, as the selling point. But I think people are beginning to seem a bit frustrated with Tyson Fury. But I'm all for the fans in boxing getting to see the fights that they want. But you've got to, you know, and the fans, without the fans, boxing would be nothing. But you've got to remember, it's not the fans who are going to be looking after you if you get hurt in the ring, or when you've retired, or what, you know. You're only going to have your nearest and dearest looking after you, and with you after you've retired, whether you might have been injured or whatever or not. There's much more to it, and you've got to get the most out of it as a fighter. And if that means, you know, arguing over a minor issue with the negotiations, like rematches, pay splits, it's whatever you feel's right at the time that you want to get. So I understand that, but it's tough one, isn't it? We all wanted to see it. I think it will happen. It will happen, but it was always too good to be true that it was just going to happen that quickly.
David, obviously, as you mentioned, kind of the financial element is what it ended up coming down to. The purse splits over the rematch now. For the first fight, Usyk agreed at 70-30 in Tyson's favour, and going into a potential rematch, if Usyk had been the victor in the first fight, I think from what the reports were saying, Tyson didn't want to stretch past 50-50. Do you understand why Alexander wanted to push back on that? And in his mind, he's there thinking, well, if I hold all the belts, I've beaten you once, so I deserve the lion's share the second time around?
Yeah, definitely, of course, because for a start, if he didn't believe he would beat Fury, he would have just held out for a bigger pace, bigger cut of it, 60-40, whatever. But I think he genuinely believed that he'd beat him in the first fight and then get what he was owed in the second fight. And then when that didn't come to terms, he's thought, well, I will walk away. So, you know, he's obviously confident of beating Tyson Fury, and rightly so, because he's proven himself throughout his career at every level, every weight division he's competed in. You know, he's right to be confident to beat any man. So yeah, I think he was disappointed that he didn't get that cut that he wanted. And then it was time to walk away. So it's one of them. You can understand where he's coming from.
The general consensus since the fight was officially confirmed as not happening is a lot of people have kind of laid blame at the feet of Tyson Fury. And do you believe in your own mind as well? Do you think Tyson's come out looking the worst of the two?
From the outside looking in, yeah. You know, it's the demands he made in the first instance. 70-30 just wasn't fair. And he got it. And it was like, it's kind of like he tried to price Usyk out of it, you know, and he didn't fall for that. That's what I'm saying. He went, yeah, you can have your 70-30, but in the rematch, I want my cut, my lion's share of it. And yeah, it does look to me from the outside, looking in, that Fury was the more difficult to deal with in the negotiations. And Usyk just wanted to fight by the looks of it. No matter where it was, when it was, he just wanted to fight. And, you know, I know Fury's fight any man and everything else, but there's negotiations for this fight. The kind of he's come out of it looking like the one who's made the fight not happen.
Just mentioning there, Tyson's always been known somebody who will face anyone. One thing that people have maybe suggested again over social media since the fight fell through is, did he start to look at the Usyk fight as being, or he might have always thought this anyway, but it was a much more difficult proposition than initially thought. Obviously Alexander, tremendously talented fighter, but most people felt that with Tyson's height and reach advantage, he'd know how to use his weight and all of those attributes against him, something that other heavyweights haven't done so far.
I don't believe that. No, I don't believe he's looked at and thought he might not win the fight, because he's got unwavering belief in himself, Tyson Fury, you know, and that's been proven over the years with the wins and the victory, you know, the victories he's had on foreign soil. He's beat everyone put in front of him. He's always found a way to win, and I don't think for a minute that he didn't believe that'd be the case with Usyk. But I don't know. I mean, look, I think in Usyk's last fight against Andi Joshua pushed him right to the wire and performed really well. And he was unlucky not to come out as the winner. Not like it was a bad decision by the judges, but he found that little bit of extra in his reservoir, Usyk, to push on and get the win. Now, I don't know whether I can't see why he's gone in with these tactics for negotiating. I don't think for a minute though it's because he believes he didn't win it. Like I said, a lot of egos in boxing, especially at the top end. You know, if you're heavyweight champion of the world, you've got to have an ego like the heavyweight champion of the world. It's just how it is. You've got to, and you getting your way is a big thing. But then he got his way, and it weren't enough. So only he knows the answer to why, really.
Looking at what could be next for each man, on the Alexander Usyk front, it seems like the WBA are going to push ahead with the Daniel Dubois fight. Do you give Daniel a chance in that fight if he's fit for it?
Got a puncher's chance, hasn't he? Obviously, but he's still relatively inexperienced. Dubois at that level, you know, he had that win on foreign soil. Has he defended the title that he won against Trevor Bryan?
Yeah, he fought back in December against Kevin Lorena.
Just that South African fella.
Yeah,
and he dropped him, didn't he? And he was a southpaw, wasn't he? On a
yes.
Dyson thing. Yeah. It's, you know, Usyk's a different level from Dubois. Let's have it right. There's no point beating about the bush. But why would he not take the opportunity to try and win? He's got the puncher's chance. He's explosive. You know, he's about as explosive as an heavyweight in the division at the minute, apart from Deontay Wilder. So he'd be right to go, what's to lose? You know, he hasn't got an unbeaten record. He's already lost to Joyce. It'd be a massive fight for him. Big payday. Still young enough to return from it. I don't think he's got it in the tank to beat him, though. I think he's tailor-made for Usyk. You know, I think Usyk will see his punches coming all day long, and I'll box him, really. Wouldn't be surprised if he might stop him late on with volume, like Joyce did, even though it was an injury. So yeah, but it'd be all for him taking the fight, definitely.
Just sticking with Alexander, one fight which has had some reports come out is a potential one with Deontay Wilder. Just your thoughts if that one was to get over the line?
I think he'd take that fight again. I think he'd just fight the biggest fights. He wants the biggest fights. He's not. He doesn't come across as someone who's too bothered about the financial side. As long as he's getting paid what he thinks he's worth, you know, he just seems content in the position he's in now. You know, he just wants to compete and win and prove he's the best. And Wilder's still a massive name in the division. Got a lot to offer the heavyweight division. And that outside of Wilder, Joshua Fury, they're the three fights that you want to see mixing. still. Usyk, Wilder, Joshua, and Fury. Sorry, the 4 names. You want to see them fight each other, because that's like legacy fights. They're the top end of the era, this era. And it'd be great if they could all fight each other at some point. But what I don't want to see is Fury fighting AJ when they're both past the best. You know, and it has happened historically with fighters. So, but if it does, you can blame them, because it's a nice fat paycheck towards the end at the end of the career. But we want to see them fight each other in the prime. I think they're all in the prime at the minute. But Usyk Wilder, yeah, great fight. And again, it only takes one punch from Wilder to just stun someone, and he'll close the show. And I think that's a fantastic proposition. It's just whether or not it'll happen. In it, it's in an ideal world, all these fights would happen.
Just looking at Tyson, there were reports. I keep saying the word reports, but he came out last night, David. Joyce seems to be the front runner to face Tyson in the summer now. Just that'd be an unbelievable fight. I think many people feel that's arguably Tyson's toughest test outside of an Alexander Usyk one. Some people even feel alongside an Alexander Usyk fight, it's his toughest test. Just your take, if we saw Tyson Fury and Joyce.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a bit of a PR stunt to deflect what's happened this week. Let's get people talking about Tyson Fury, Joyce. Look, Joyce brings a lot more risk and then reward than the Usyk fight does. The Usyk fights for the undisputed heavyweight title. Usyk's more well known worldwide than Joyce. You know, I just can't see for the life of me why someone would turn down the opportunity to fight for the undisputed against a bigger name, bigger payday, everything bigger, and fighting someone who's relatively unknown and potentially more dangerous. And if I know Tyson Fury, his career has always been about managing and picking the right fights at the right time. You know, I was part of that, because I vacated his British title rather than fight me at that time, because at that time he was pretty reckless and a bit raw still, and it's about who you don't fight at certain times, and they've always done that really well with Tyson Fury. Now he's heavyweight champion in the world. Now obviously you can't say he's going to avoid anyone, but it's about being clever. Now, no chance it's going to happen, and I hope it does. I hope it does, but if it does, I'll be like, that's a mad bit of business, unless they see something in Joyce that I don't, because I think as far as the fight goes, it just being an out and out, you know, it take years off your career type of fight for both of them, because neither man are willing to quit, neither man are willing to. He's have to nail either of them to the floor, like they've said. So it'd be great, but I just can't see it.
Just away from those guys, you mentioned Anthony Joshua early on. He returns next week against Jermaine Franklin. First fight after the back-to-back defeats to Alexander Usyk. New trainer, of course, with Derek James. What are you hoping he shows?
I'm hoping he just wipes the floor with Jermaine Franklin within 6 rounds and makes a statement, because just boxing through points win against someone who's tailor-made for you isn't good enough for someone like Anthony Joshua. He's got to make a statement to get people interested again, because the nature of the people is that you lose a couple of fights, you think people are finished, you go and watch someone else and like, oh, he's lost 3 times, AJ, been knocked out, got no chin, all this, that. So he's got to go out and have to prove himself and get the entertainment element back. Couldn't do that against Usyk. No one would be able to go in and look entertaining against Usyk and blast and land and big clean shots. He doesn't get it enough. He's not there to be it. This fella's there to be it. And that's when people are going to see, you know, sweat bouncing off the fella's head and, you know, blood and gore and what boxing fight fans like and what they were used to seeing with Anthony Joshua. But any less than that, then you're going to be thinking, where does he go from there?
It's a great deal of pressure on his shoulders, because a lot of people are expecting to see somewhat of an explosive performance. And you've just said, you know, if we don't see, where does he go from there? Is this very much so looking at him as a make or break fight in his career then?
I think so, yeah. I mean, look, he's always going to be a massive name and involved in big fights, but he's got it in him to be a champion again, and that's what he wants to be again. It's killing him not being a champion. So we can't just be. He's got to convince the public straight away. You know, the fight, his last fight, he shouldn't have any damaged confidence from that fight. So it shouldn't. This isn't a rebuilding fight, because his last fight he performed really well and ran Usyk right to the wire. So this isn't a rebuilding fight. This is just a continuation off the back of a good performance. So in my mind, so he should go in and really put a show on and feel good, get that feeling back of winning. You know, he's lost his last two fights. Might have forgot what it feels like to win. I've been there. When you get that buzz back, you get that hunger back for the winning. You know, he's talking about his motivation being money, but once he gets that winning feeling back, he'll go, this is why I do it. Because that's the drug of boxing. It's the winning. And when he gets that back, that's when his hunger will return for, like, legitimately. And he'll start enjoying the sport again, because right now it's probably just about trying to prove people wrong, prove himself right, and, you know, enjoy it. You know. And I think it's important that he does in this fight, and then after that, you know, we move on from strength to strength.
Just a couple more to touch on before I let you go, David. We mentioned Joe earlier. He actually has his own fight to concentrate on before the Fury one comes around, and that's Zhang on April 15th. It's only a couple of weeks away now. Again, not but one which everybody's expecting to see go the distance, one which everybody's thinking will end soon at some point within that fight. What's your take?
Again, that's a fun fight, innit? Two big, solid, you know, slow heavyweights. They're both slow, you know, but Joyce's timing's impeccable. His timing's brilliant, and his accuracy is really good. His defense is improving. It's going to be a great fight to watch. It's like Clash of the Titans, isn't it? It's one of them when, you know, when one of them hits the floor, the room's going to shake. And that's what people love about heavyweight boxing. They're both there to be hit. Zhang isn't your typical. He's not a cute southpaw. You can land punches freely on his big head. And Joyce, likewise, he knows that he is improving his defence. So I just think Joyce is going to smash him to pieces, to be honest, because I think he really is like a fucking wrecking machine. And someone like Zhang is made for him, because he's not quick. He's not quick. He's quite lumbering, and he'll just be teeing off on his head all day. But it's going to be a fun one to watch, and then, you know, put Joyce in a great position after that. But it's who's going to want to fight Joyce voluntarily, and that's why I just can't see Fury doing it. If he does, then great, you know, but I just can't see that.
Obviously, you know, we've just spent quite a bit of time in the past speaking about Conor Benn, and I just want to get your thoughts on the most recent news around him. You know, since we last spoke, we heard the reports of the WBC coming out claiming eggs could have been the reason behind the elevated levels of clomiphene in his body. Conor denied that, and he's since been on with Piers Morgan. There's all the reports of a potential Manny-Pacquiao fight out in the UAE. Chris Eubank Jr. fights coming to fruition. I just want to get your most recent thoughts on everything surrounding Conor Benn.
Yeah, there's so many conflicting things going on, isn't there? The WBC is saying one thing about eggs. He's saying he didn't have eggs. They're the ones who backed him, even though it was their testing protocol which found the findings. I didn't see the Piers Morgan thing, so I don't know. But I haven't read the full details. All I know is that for him to be proven innocent, he needs to fight in the UK again, and the only way he's going to do that is to clear his name with the board. Now, the board only recognise UK anti-doping as the or the Wales anti-doping agency as the standard of testing protocols, and I have thought to myself the other week, just fleetingly, VADA is the voluntary anti-doping agency. They found the clomiphene, but UK anti-doping didn't. And if you look back historically, VADA find more, they pop more athletes than anyone. But they're not a not-for-profit organisation like UK Anti-Doping or USA Anti-Doping Agency, Wales Anti-Doping Agency. They're a privately run company. So are they doing something different than what the others are doing? Is the industry standard protocol, which is followed with the drug testing procedures, what every drug testing outfit has to follow? Because if they're finding something in UK Anti-Doping, and what are they doing different? But it has entered my head, you know, is it in their interest to find things to justify the position? Look, we're VADA, we find drugs and athletes, but are they using a lot more high sensitivity ways of testing? I don't know, but if you look at boxers who've been collared, apart from like obvious ones, like, you know, and Tepe when he fought me, and the ones that haven't been done by UK Anti-Doping, this clean testing program with VADA, they find things like, but UK Anti-Doping are involved at the same time and don't find them, or they're involved just after and don't find them. There's a lot of inconsistencies, and it begs the question, you know, what's being done differently. But for Conor Benn to, you know, move on with his career, it's got to be in the UK. It's this where his fan base is. This where his bread's buttered. He's got to sit in front of the board and iron everything out and get it sorted.
What would you make then if he was to end up going to face, say, Manny Pacquiao next, or a Eubank Jr. out in the UAE, or if it was to be taken to America?
It'd be a shame, wouldn't it? But you know, he's got to move on with his career. You know, he's got to continue with his career. It'd be a shame, but people will soon forget, because that's just the nature of people. You know, it'll be old news soon, and that's the sad thing about it. It shouldn't be forgotten about if someone's failed a drug test and can't prove their innocence. But people end up moving on, and they'll watch them fight. Like Jarrell Miller fighting last week, people are going to tune in and watch. He ends up getting a big fight even after what he's done, because people have got short memories, and it's just, you know, they just move on with things at the end of the day.
David, just final one before I let you go, because I know that I've kept you for probably a bit longer than what I said I would beforehand. Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis, we're a few weeks away. Brilliant fight, one which is finally over the line. Just your breakdown, please. Who do you think comes out on top?
I think Tank. I think Garcia. What's his name? Ryan Garcia.
Ryan Garcia, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot his name then. Ryan Garcia, yeah, he's an explosive fighter, looks the part. You know, he's like another Oscar De La Hoya, isn't he? He's more. Once Tank gets within range and up close, I think once he starts landing clubbing hard shots on the side of his head, that's where the fight's going to be won. You know, even when they're tussling inside in a clinch, Tank's short range distance punching is more explosive than Garcia's, but it's getting past that jab, that right hand, that left hook. It's a fantastic fight, but I think it's about who can take the most, and I think it's going to be Gervonta Davis. He'll take his licks, but he'll take them and keep coming, and I think that's what's going to win the fight, and I think he'll win late on.
Right, David, I'll leave it there now. I'll leave you to go and enjoy the rest of your week and what's left of it. Thank you for speaking to me, and enjoy your time.
Thanks. See you later.